Hi, hello, how are you? And welcome, a big welcome. I'm here to talk about the solar eclipse, which is the first eclipse in the next series of eclipses. We have two big times in the year when we have eclipses. One is at the very beginning, December, January, this is of the annual year, December and January. And then another one happens in July, another series of eclipses. So what's happening with these eclipses? The first one we're going to have is a solar eclipse, which is an eclipse of the sun, which is all about us having a new beginning. So we have an ending and we have a new beginning. Now this is a new moon, and it's called an annular, so it happens annually. Solar eclipse in December. But what this is part of a series of eclipses that started last year, and we have two more, one on December the 26th and then another one on July 2020. And this is why we're talking about, or a lot of us talking about in terms of astrology, talking about the end of a beginning, the end of one season, and the beginning of something very new. So this happens on the Cancer Capricorn alignment, which is really interesting because Cancer and Capricorn are actually opposites, direct opposites to each other, and they say that in this instance, Cancer is in detriment to Capricorn, and what that means is that it's not as powerful, it's not comfortable, and it's a little bit diminished. So you see, it's like not quite in opposition, but not working together. So you can see why this is a major trigger point. This is a new beginning for us in our public life. The spotlight is going to be about how we are in the public life and who we are in terms of our public being. It's about our reputation, it's about career, achievement, it's also about accountability. But it's definitely moving into a new phase for us. So you can see how all this work that we've been doing over the last 6 months or so about cleansing and releasing and reaffirming ourselves is getting ready for this new platform that we're entering into. And that's going to be quite an interesting time for us, and it's going to be a gangbuster time for a lot of us. So we're going to see a lot of growth. We're going to see a lot of maturing in terms of who we are, how we're showing up, and who we want to be. And I think that's really going to be fantastic for us. So let's talk a little bit about the Capricorn, because that's where it's happening. One of the things that this eclipse is going to be doing for us is it's going to be very much showing us and allowing us to recognize our limitations. And in some ways, that is so freeing, because it's like saying to us, okay, that's as far as you can go in that area. You're not meant to, at this stage of time, to go further. So it's time for you to be thinking about something else and another direction to go in. So that's going to be very, very nice. Now, we are on a continual stage of growth. So just reaching a limitation in one direction is quite freeing, because it says, oh, okay, so where I've got to now is enough. I don't need to go any further in that direction. I can now move my attention to other areas that I want to develop and where that development should be, that I'm inclined to be going towards. And that's a really nice, positive thing to be happening. So you'll find that our focus will shift a little bit, and in that shifting, it will become far more specific. We're really going to hone in on things we want to pursue, and that's what's going to be taking place. Now, normally an eclipse is up to about 6 weeks, but because this eclipse is the third in a series of 4, and we're going to have another one on this same plane in July. We've had one already in previous July, and we've had one at the beginning, end of last year. So what's going to be happening is that this is going to stay in place for the next 6 months. It's actually going to take us up to the next eclipse in July, and that's going to be quite interesting to see how all of that comes together. The other thing about this eclipse, just to let you know in terms of the timing, is that it's going to be aligned with Jupiter in a positive alignment. That's fantastic because that's about expansion. So anything that we're going to be focusing on is going to be expanded. Areas that we're moving into are going to be growth areas, so we can expect a lot of expansion. But interestingly enough, it's also going to be in a positive trine with Uranus, which means there will be a few surprises. Now, what's interesting about this Capricorn Cancer is this little bit of tension that we had with the Venus moving into Aquarius and the Sun moving into Capricorn. You can see that this eclipse is a magnification of that. So Cancer, as we know, is highly intuitive. It's psychic. It's where a lot of our psychic powers come from, that particular house. It's a water planet, so it's got to do with feelings. And most people who are Cancerians are energy receptors, so we're picking up on the vibes. So if you really want to get a hold of this, you need to go and have a look at seeing where Cancer is in your chart and see where Capricorn is in your chart, and you'll see that they're actually opposite each other, and that's quite fascinating. And when you see that they're opposite each other, if you really want to get a hold on this, go and have a look at the traits of Cancer and Capricorn, and you'll see that there'll be traits that they share. Now, the traits that they share, they are going to be in harmony, and they're going to be magnetized. And they're going to be, as in they're going to be very attractive and attracting and bringing things towards those particular traits that they share, which is really fascinating for us. Those are traits that are opposing or uncomfortable with each other. They're going to be the triggers for you. So look at where they are sharing aspects in your houses and also in the sign traits, and you'll see the areas that are going to be expanded. And then look at those areas where they're opposing, and you'll see where your triggers are going to be. And that's what we need to be doing with the houses. And go and have a look at your natal chart, because that will show you what you need to understand about this particular eclipse. Now, what is interesting about the harmless trine of Uranus is a little bit unpredictable. So while it is happening in Capricorn, and Capricorn is very much about earth and routines and thinking logically and thinking in a rational expansion and going in a particular direction, plans, strategy, habits. While it's all about that, the fact that it's being in harmonious alignment with and trining with Uranus means we're going to have a few things that'll be unexpected, which is always kind of nice because it's always good to get surprises, right? So that's what's going to be happening. The other big thing that's going to be shown to you with this new beginning is where there are flaws in a system or in a process that you have implemented, or in how you are thinking about a system or a process. There it's going to be highlighted where these flaws are, and you're going to have a chance to rethink your approach to something, which is very, very nice. So you might find that you'll be redoing a habit or a routine, and you might be in a situation where you really want to rearrange something or get refocused on something, and that'll come up. And what will happen is, of course, with an eclipse, is things that are not working for you, if you don't move them to one side, the energies around you might very well just move them to one side. You know, it's a little bit, if it served its purpose, it served its purpose. If it served its purpose, thank it and let it move on. And that's what we need to be having a look at. So it will be making us very focused on the areas where we want to expand. It will be making us very focused on the areas where something's not working, something in our routine, in our habit, and that will need to go. The other important thing about the eclipse is it will show us something that we need to surrender. One of the interesting things that's happening at the moment because of these trigger points is this whole questioning about mastery and control. Having control over something is not having mastery over something. Now, I've done some talking about that in a podcast that I put out about the evolution of learning. So this is going to show us really clearly, and like I described it in my Chiron as a big wet fish in your face. This is going to show us areas where we are having control issues, which means we are holding things too tight. When we're holding things too tight, it's because we don't have mastery. It's a fear mechanism. We don't feel we have mastered it yet, and so what we're doing, we're afraid of it. The only way to keep it together is to keep it really tight and keep it under control. So that's going to be shown to us areas where we don't have mastery, where we are blindly keeping control of something. And what we're going to be asked to do is surrender that control. And by surrendering that control, you open yourself up to gaining mastery. And surrendering that control literally means that you begin to understand that you don't really understand it. You don't understand what you're doing. You're holding it too tight. It's fear-based, and you need to get an understanding of that fear, and that fear needs to be healed or understood so it can be healed, and that's where that is at. So that will also be highlighted with this. So I think that's really going to be quite an interesting time for us for this eclipse. And this will be a process that's going to take place over 6 months. And in that podcast, I talked about when we're going into learning and we go along the spiritual path, or when we decide we want to learn something, you notice that it's a continual cycle of understanding that we don't understand something, gaining some understanding about that, then trying to get another level of understanding, which is, okay, how do I take that and make it real in the real world? Like, how do I enact that? So how do I get a knowledge or an understanding and then turn that into a behavior or into a thought process or into a belief, a value, and then how do I take that and integrate that into me? So it's a 4-stage learning, and then once you get to the stage that you've fully integrated something, then we get another trigger which says, oh, okay, there's more. Okay, so now I need to go and learn that. Okay, and that's what's going to be happening. Now, after this, which is going to be on the 26th, this is the other thing I want to say to you a little bit about this, with it happening on the 26th, is on the 25th is December, is Christmas. And Christmas for some people is joyous. Christmas for some people is unbelievably difficult and full of unfulfilled expectations. So it's going to be an interesting time, Christmas. So take care of yourself emotionally and give everyone around you a lot of space, emotional space, for them to express themselves and to allow that to happen without you getting caught up in any of that turmoil that goes sometimes with a close family member expressing themselves in a way that you are not, either you are too familiar with and it's a trigger point, or you're not comfortable with. And no one pushes your buttons like your family, right? So be a little bit generous with yourself on this particular time, and please be generous with the people around you, particularly given this eclipse that's going to be happening on the 26th and then taking us through for the 6 months afterwards. Now, what's also going to be interesting in this, and we're going to have a few little trigger points. So remember, trigger points are learning opportunities, and they show us where we need to change something in what we're doing. So what's going to happen is on the 28th, Mercury is going to move into Capricorn as well. So the nice thing about that happening on the 28th is Mercury is then going to give us a good hold of our language. We're going to be able to have good discussions either with ourselves or with other people about what we're experiencing and about all the changes we want to make and the refocusing we want to do. So that's beautiful. And I'll just give you a heads up, because on the 3rd of Mars, and the reason I'm doing this is because it's Christmas, New Year period, and that's very busy for most people. On the 3rd of January, Mars is in Sagittarius. Now, what's interesting about Mars going in Sagittarius is it's going to again be in opposition a little bit to Capricorn, because it's going to be a wanderlust. It's going to make us a little bit more excited about the new, the brand new, and that's really a fabulous timing to have that beginning at the beginning of January and near the beginning of this eclipse. But the other thing about Sagittarius is that we are like magpies. We love anything that glitters, and as soon as we see something glittery, our mind just moves to that. So we don't necessarily want to stay and finish something. However, this happening in with the Sun in Capricorn and right near this eclipse, what this is going to do is it's going to show us these new areas we want to go into, and then the discipline of Capricorn will allow us to complete these new projects. So that's also quite wonderful and something very, very nice to be working with. So that's very, very exciting. So we have the eclipse, the solar eclipse in Cancer, and it's a fabulous new moon. So it's all about new beginnings, and don't forget though, to have a new beginning we also need to have an ending. And in life there's always endings and there's always new beginnings, and that's the cycle of life, and it's really rather beautiful. So for those of you who are into Christmas, have a really nice Christmas. For those of you who are not so into Christmas, which by the way is perfectly fine by me, please just enjoy yourself. Whether you're into Christmas or not into Christmas, please give everybody around you the emotional space to be who they want to be on this day, including yourself, and be kind to yourself and to be kind to everyone around you. Okay? It's a beautiful 6 months for the beginning of the new year. Okay, bye-bye.